Archbishop Welby is an absolute disgrace, and now he deserves to have his dog collar felt by the police. There must be a full criminal investigation into exactly what he knew. How could he say that he now knew in 2013 about this child molester, this pervert, this whipper of children, Smyth? He knew back in 2013. Why didn't he bloody do something? He was so busy preaching about stop oil. He was so woke, telling us how we should live our lives. So busy slagging off the Conservative government and being like a tin pot or revolutionary, rather than being the leader of the Church of England. He disgusts me. What about you? Welcome to the John Gaunt podcast. As you can see, if you're watching on video, we've now got it on camera as well. It's just a beginning. I've got to get the lighting fixed up, but it's not bad, especially as I'm not at home at the moment. So you can either watch it now in video, widescreen probably, or you can just listen on your download on a podcast. Either way, you're with John Gaunt. I don't hold back, and I'm not holding back on this filthy cleric. I'm not saying he's a pervert, but what I'm saying is if he knew in 2013, surely he had an absolute responsibility to tell the authorities. But no. Welby decided instead to protect the reputation of the church. Well, that's how it appeals to me. And then now, today, he's been basically forced to resign. He spent the last 2 days trying not to resign, hoping it'd blow over. Well, it hasn't. And now you're finished. You are disgusting. Let's just remember what Smyth, the man who used to swap birthday cards and Christmas cards with our Archbishop, was actually up to. He used to hold these summer camps in the 70s and 80s and get young lads, mainly from public schools and stuff, to go to them. Then he'd invite them to his house. And he had a shed which he'd soundproofed, not to do podcasts in, but to whip the arses of these young lads. When the police found this, they found that he also had a load of nappies in there. What were the nappies for, Gaunty? Well, I'll tell you. He whipped some of these kids so many times. One of the people say it was over 100 times on his backside. Their cheeks were bleeding. That's what the nappies were for. This man got away with it for years and years in plain sight. And when Welby, and it's got to be said, other chief clerics in the Church of England knew about it, when they were told about it, they did nothing. They didn't report it to the police. They did not make this man stop. He didn't get a custodial sentence. He didn't even go on trial. No, what the Church of England did, God bless them, was sent him to Africa, hoping it would all blow over and then he could whip African kids instead. And evidently that's what he did. He went there and continued with his perverted behaviour. He should have stood trial. And you know where I stand on this. This kind of heinous crime, you can't cure a paedophile. So if they commit a crime like this, a serial offender, I'm sorry, I want them to have the Saddam shuffle or the modern equivalent. I want them executed. I'm with Donald Trump on this. For sexual offences like this, execute the bastards. Are you with me or against me? Dead simple. Get on Twitter, get on Facebook. My name is John Gaunt, all one word. There, you see it on the screen. If you're watching on the video, if you can call it a video, it's powered by Steam, this video. But get on Twitter, get on Facebook, and tell me what you think. I think we need the death penalty. And I'll tell you what we also need is to take paedophilia in all its forms much more seriously. We've just had that foul pervert, Hugh Edwards, the man who commentated on the Queen's funeral, and announced the death of Her Majesty the Queen. He was in court and he had photos and he was found guilty of, they call it making the images. He didn't actually make them, but he had the images. And some of these were class 4, the worst possible types of images. That means children up to the age or as young as 4, and includes penetration. I'm not going to go any further than that. You know what that means. And he didn't go to prison. And then the tabloids afterwards said Hugh Edwards was not alone. Other people have not gone to prison for possessing those sorts of photos. Remember, you cannot cure paedophilia. Now, I'm not asking for the death penalty for Hugh Edwards, but undoubtedly he needed a custodial sentence. Why don't we take it seriously? Is it because they're young boys when it happens to them and they're now men? These people are 60 years old like me now. But the crime has been with them for years. I remember a story. We were doing my radio show quite near the beginning of my career, and we were in Luton. I was on the radio in Luton, 3 Counties Radio. I had a happy time there. And we were trying to lower the age of the audience. It was one of these BBC stupid directives. Because they don't really care about older people. They didn't care then and they don't care now. Let me tell you. I mean, what they're doing to local radio is a disgrace. Oh, we have it all on the internet. Well, lots of people like the radio still, you stupid sods. But anyway, put that to one side. So we're trying to lower the audience. That's the directive from above. From now it would be she who must be obeyed. So I'm there and I'm in the studio and suddenly this bloke comes up on screen and you get the name up and it says Albert. I goes, all right, Albert, how you doing? And he goes, oh, hello, Gaunty. I just want to tell you a story. And I'm on the talkback, so he can't hear me. And I'm saying to Lorraine, what you put him through for? He's an old bloke. And he goes, John, I just want to tell you something. When I was a lad, I've never told anybody this. I was 7 years old and I was in Norfolk and I was taken into a field by 3 men. I slowly, ever so slowly, pulled my finger back off the talkback and I listened to him. And for 20 minutes, he told me a tale that he had told nobody else. He was now, I think he was 78 if I remember right. He hadn't told anybody else. He'd been taken, and I'm not going to go into the detail, he'd been taken into a field and raped by 3 men. He'd never been able to tell his wife this. He said to me in this call that he'd never been able to feel comfortable bathing his children on his own without his wife there because how much this had affected him. And he didn't want to come over as a pervert himself. 78 years, 70 years or so after he'd been abused. It was one of the most amazing phone calls I've ever had in my life and taught me a very important lesson, which the BBC have still not learned. You can't judge an audience like just one big demographic. Let's lower the audience. Hey, because guess what? Sometimes people, older people, have life experiences that everybody can learn from. And the BBC should be there for everybody, yeah? But I digress. You understand what I'm saying? So this very moving phone call. But this man's life had been ruined by what those 3 blokes did in that field to him in Norfolk 70 years earlier. He'd never been able to tell his wife, and he'd never really, from what he told me, had a proper love life or sex life with her because he was damaged in the head with it all. As I say, he didn't go into detail. He didn't need to. The pauses, it was like a Harold Pinter play. The pauses spoke volumes of what had happened to that young boy who was now this old man. Paedophilia has got to be one of the worst crimes in the world. When you murder somebody, yes, it's horrendous. And yes, they're dead. And it's terrible for the victim's family. And we don't do enough for the victims' families and indeed the victims of serious crime in this country, do we? And let's face it, crime, serious crime like that, is absolutely out of control. But when it's paedophilia, and indeed when it's rape as well, the victim is given the life sentence straight away. That's the life sentence, the moment they're penetrated, right? That's the life sentence. But twats like Archbishop Welby, we go, oh no, we can't have the death penalty. We can't have long sentences. We need penal reform. He'll say all of this whilst he hasn't even told the coppers. 2013, remember, that's 11 years ago. He never told the police. And that's why I say his dog collar needs to be felt. There needs to be a full investigation, criminal investigation. And if he is guilty of anything, of aiding and abetting an offender, he must get a custodial sentence. We must send out the clearest message ever. And as for the Church of England today, they're all going on about, oh yeah, we're going to have to look at our safeguarding. Too fucking late. Same with the Catholic Church. We'll look at our safeguarding. But this thing as well, where they send them around the globe, well, they can go off and do it to black kids in Africa. As if that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're black or white. Michael Jackson song there, careful, John. But you understand what I'm saying. It's a disgrace. It's a stain. I mean, I'm not into organised religion. I've been upset this past week or so because my old church, St. Nicholas in Radford, it's 1960s, 50s style, beautiful style church, but it got concrete illness or cancer, whatever they call it. And so eventually the church had let it just fall down, and now it's been demolished. And it kind of tugged at my heartstrings because my mum's ashes are in the, Garden of Remembrance there. It's where I used to go, St. George's Day Parade and Remembrance Sunday. My daughter was asking me about that. She said, I was in my village, John. Dad, sorry, she didn't call me John. She said, and they were all there, scouts and stuff at the church. What's that about? I said, we used to do that. We used to go to St. Nicholas. It's like Remembrance Sunday. I said, it's a bit like what you've seen I probably saw it on the telly today, Rosie, in London. The same thing, but on a smaller scale. Oh, she said. And she looked at me gone out because, I mean, it's obviously not something didn't take her to church. Well, she went to church when she was very little, but not older. Anyway, I'm digressing again. Let's get back to St. Nicholas Church. So my church has just been completely demolished. And I felt as if part of my childhood was now definitely over. Good job, really, because I'm 63. But I used to go to the youth club at this church. We used to play football on the grass where they've put all the rubble from the church. So something, and the church, I think I spoke about this a few weeks ago on one of the audio podcasts. The church used to bind us, didn't it? If you were a proddy kid, you used to go to church and go to Sunday school. My Catholic mates went to St. Augustine's, the same thing. But there was something then that united us. But there's been this dreadful abuse. And I talk about this a lot because child abuse is just horrendous. I lost my job on Talk Sport, didn't I? Because I dared to say that actually residential homes and the child abuse in them was much more of a danger to children than somebody having a fag in the back kitchen who wants to foster a kid. Yeah. And then I called the bloke a Nazi. It was an ignorant pig line. I got it. But I called him an ignorant pig and I lost my job. Some would say I lost my career. So here I am now in the kitchen doing me podcast. But you know what? I'm loving it. Because it's uncensored, it's uncontrolled, it's just what I want to talk about. Like today, I just wanted to talk about the Archbishop, and now look, I'm talking about when I was in care. But this is important. I think there's too much of what we watch or see or join in on the radio. It's all programmed. It's all programmed, and it's all, he'll say this, you say that, you say that. I'm making a big podcast, or it'll be a video cast hopefully now, about my experience, not just on the BBC, but on all those discussion programs that I used to do. It's all a con. It's all a con. It's all light entertainment. It's all nonsense. So I much prefer what I'm doing now. Don't earn anywhere near the same amount of money. But I'm hoping to get it sponsored eventually. And of course, you've been helping out. If you're just joining us, we do this thing called Buy Me a Coffee. Next week, when I worked out how to do the graphics, I'll have it on a ticker tape going across the bottom. But if you go to www.buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt, there's how to spell John Gaunt, all one word, you can then buy me a coffee. And the coffee is just a euphemism or a metaphor, there's me drama training, for you donating a £5. So the minimum donation's a £5. Some people have been donating 100 quid. A lot of people do 15 quid. But whatever you can afford, that'll be great. And that's going to help me develop this podcast. Like now I've got the software again, so I can now do video. I need a couple of lights, clearly. So that's the next thing I'm going to invest in. But if you can help me out, that's fine. That's the end of the begging. Is that begging? I'm not sure. But so what I'm trying to say is here, www.buymeacoffee.com. What I'm trying to do is my own stuff, what I believe, and talk about the things that I think are important. And what I think is vitally important today is to talk about the Archbishop. That guy, John Smyth, he got away with it. And he's not the first, and he won't be the last. And we just do not take paedophilia seriously enough. Some people call it child porn. It's not child porn, because the word porn or pornography suggests that the participants were willing. They're not willing. It's like the girls in Bradford, Rochdale, Rotherham, Birmingham, Oxford, Coventry, who have been systematically raped by these Muslim rape gangs. If we're going to condemn them, we have to condemn all acts of paedophilia, and I do condemn them. I can't believe that some of those men haven't had the Saddam shuffle. I certainly don't understand why we haven't fucking deported them. What do you think? But we've got to remember, paedophilia is almost everywhere. And white people and people who don't come from an immigrant background do it as well. I'm not excusing or belittling it. But you see, it's idiots like the Archbishop. He's the kind of woke warrior who basically, when people started saying these Muslim rape gangs from Pakistan are doing this, they were the ones who shouted down those people. Ann Cryer, the MP, I did all this on the radio years ago. They shouted her down as a racist, as a practicing Islamophobia. She was just telling the truth. And we've got to be able to tell the truth. There's bad ones in all parts of our society. You've got to be able to speak out. And I don't understand Welby, in one of the most powerful men, most powerful positions in the country, he couldn't speak out. Of course he did. And that's what I want the police to investigate. Maybe there is a good excuse. Maybe there is a reason. But why didn't he tell the coppers? Why didn't Smyth get put before 12 good men and true and face a trial? No. He managed to get out of the country, carry on whipping and abusing and buggering young boys, and was a free man until the day he died. It reminds me of the Nicky Campbell case. You know how brave he's been talking about this, and his mates at Fettes College in Edinburgh, one of the poshest schools, not only just in Scotland, but in the country. It happened there. And one of those blokes ended up in South Africa, and they're doing everything they can to extradite him and bring him back. He's an old man now. I don't care whether he's 150 and in a fucking wheelchair. I want him in a court of law, and I want him tried by 12 good men and true. When are we going to take this subject seriously? And also, when are we going to do something about all the kids who are in care still? When I got the sack, there were 60,000 children in children's homes, residential care. It's about 63 now. It hasn't gone down. They haven't got a special person to ask them how school went today, like I always ask my kids. Have a great day, do this, do that. No, they've got no one. They're on their own. They're on their own. I managed to escape that because my Auntie Rosemary, who by the way was a smoker, she came down and plucked me away from the home and gave me my second chance in life. Without my Auntie or Rosemary, I don't know where I'd be. Honestly. Probably in prison. Almost one step up where I've ended up anyway. I don't know. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And I think we've got to get on top of that. And also, I've been following a guy on Twitter, and he talks about kids who have been in care, then they leave care at 16, and they're put in shitty little bedsits. You know, the sorts of places where we wouldn't put somebody who's just arrived in a rubber dinghy at Dover because it would be inhumane. But these kids who've had these terrible childhoods, that's where they're put, with no real support. And there's another guy who's trying to put forward an idea that if you've been in care, it should become like a protected condition so that you would actually get a leg up when you apply for jobs. You know, like when you're trying to get a job at the BBC, if you're black or Asian, you've got a much better chance. Well, why shouldn't that be for kids who've been in care as well? I think it's interesting. I'll do a programme about that one day. Because I'm telling you, being in care, and particularly if you've been physically or sexually abused, it lives with you for the rest of your life. And we need to do something. So we can get ratty and up in arms today about Welby, right? And I want a police investigation. We can get up in arms about Jimmy Savile, about the Muslim grooming gangs, and all of that. We can get really worked up, but we need to fundamentally change our society. So we put children first, and we believe them. We believe them when they say they're being hurt, damaged, or abused. And we certainly believe them when they're older. People still fighting for compensation for what happened to them in childhood, and how it gets even worse when it's an institution like the church or the Scouts or a residential children's home or a boarding school, a top public posh boarding school. I don't care where you come from, what your background is. Abuse is abuse is abuse. And there's too much of it in Western society. And we need to get on top of it. Now, if you think I'm a nutcase, tell me. Get on Twitter, John Gaunt. Get on Facebook. Or send me an email, john@johngaunt.com. Please join in. And if you like what I'm doing, and if you think the video's okay, and it's not perfect, I haven't even had time to do my hair or anything like that yet. I just wanted to try it today and see whether it would work. And if it works here, it should work anywhere. We're trying to get a studio together because I want to start having guests as well. I want to move this forward. And I couldn't finish having a diatribe about woke, right? Woke. And talking about the Archbishop without also celebrating the fact that the other king of woke has lost his job today. Well, not lost his job. He's got a 2-year payoff, Gary Lineker. He's another one. He should talk about football and keep his nose out of other things that he doesn't understand. You keep pushing your junk food, Gary, right? But Gary's going. But it's kind of good news until you realise they'll probably replace him with somebody worse. Because he does know his football. I bet you they give it to that Alex Scott. Tick, tick, tick. How many boxes does she tick, yeah? Or that other woman who can't stop shouting. Do you know the one I'm talking about? Now, Gary Yorath, she's great. I think she could do a good job. There are women. Claire Baldwin is a great sports presenter. But most of the footballers, and what do they call them, are lionesses. They'll never be TV or radio presenters while I've got a hole in my arse. But we're not allowed to say that because we're meant to be woke and celebrating diversity. Had some idiot today accused me of misogyny. See, I bet you he's there typing, Gaunt is being misogynistic, he's talking about Alex Scott. But then, of course, I undermined it by saying, I think Gabby Yorath's brilliant, and I think Claire Baldwin's brilliant. I used to love that Hazel Irvine as well. There's been some great women in sport. I haven't got a problem with it. I have kind of got a problem with women footballers when they're the experts and they're sort of on the same level as Ali McCoist or even Jamie Carragher or any of the others because they haven't played it at the same level. But in terms of comparing a show, being the host, I don't think it'd matter if Gabby Yorath took it over. Anyway, Match of the Day is kind of finished, isn't it? You've seen all the goals by the time Match of the Day's on. Come through on your Moby. It's the new world. People don't watch linear TV or even Lineker TV. He's realised that because he's doing all his podcasts. Anyway, again, I digress. We'll leave it on one side. Good luck to you, Gary Lineker. But Archbishop Welby, I want you certainly I want the police to investigate. And if it needs to go to a court of law, let's have it. Bring it on. Please let me know if you're with me or against me. John@johngaunt.com, Twitter, or get on Facebook, or this is now going to be on YouTube. All my podcasts are on YouTube as well. You can leave comments there, and you can leave comments now on this video. Don't forget, you can get in video or audio format. The audio format means you're not going to use up all your data so quickly, so that might be useful if you're watching or listening on a mobile phone. And if you can help me out, because I'm trying to get, if you've only just joined this video, I've been seriously ill. I was ill for about 18 months, had sepsis, but I won't go into it. Listen to the old podcast. There's 51 podcasts. That'll keep you going forever or drive you mad. So, but if you can help me out, go to buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt and please donate anything from £5 upwards. I don't even like coffee. You can change it to a pint, but if I thought it was a pint, that might put people off. I don't want to turn them into an alcoholic. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. This is the John Gaunt Show. My name is John Gaunt, and I'm back, and only by the will of God and your help. So thank you very much for that. If you do want to help me, you know what to do. But in the meantime, if you've got kids, Give them a kiss. Give them a hug. Hey, hey, hey. Don't forget to tell them, and never stop telling them, that you absolutely love them. Just trying to find the button to end. That's it. Cheers. See you later.